radio. He has radio.
Exactly 12:30. But I'm hoping that as time goes on, people will wander down here. I'm going to speak. Assembly Member Thurmond will be here in 10 minutes. Can you all hear? Can people hear? Please feel free to get some food and then sit down. There's a lot of good pizza. Make yourself comfortable. Okay, so let me introduce myself. Emma has invited me to come today and speak a little bit about domestic violence. My name is Karen Weinstein, and I'm a psychologist. And I have worked for the last 20 years at Kaiser Medical Center in Richmond in the Department of Psychiatry and Substance Abuse. And I've worked with lots of men, lots of women who have struggled with the issue of domestic violence. When we think of domestic violence, we usually think of older people married someplace else. But in fact, the highest risk age group is 16 to 20. What that means is that 1 in 5 college students will be in a domestic violence relationship or will have had a partner in a domestic violence relationship. So that means the college students are at highest risk. When we talk about domestic violence, we're not just talking about women. We're talking about women and men who are victims, and we're talking about women and men who are perpetrators. So you want to pay attention to the fact that many people need help in this area. I'm going to say this because I'm speaking so quickly, I'm going to say this right now. If you are in a domestic violence relationship and you're keeping it to yourself, please call 1-800-799-SAFE. That is the domestic violence hotline. And it has a lot of great information. Whether you're a man or a woman, a victim, whatever you do, call them. If you have a friend who you're concerned about, they're coming in with bruises, they're coming in depressed, a little bit anxious, do not be afraid to say to them what's troubling you. And be there, listen to them, tell them that you believe them and that you can help in any way that you will. Also give them numbers for the 1-800-799-SAFE. The thing that usually happens is that we tend to neglect when there's something going on because we feel a little embarrassed about it. This is a serious issue. Please don't ignore it. On Black Friday, a woman from University of Chicago was in Nordstrom. She worked there. Her boyfriend came in, killed her. A student at Cornell was celebrating her birthday. Her ex-partner came in and killed her. I don't know if any of you know Shannon Jones or Cecilia Lamb, San Francisco State University student, and she was killed as well. It is a serious issue, and times that people are at most risk is when they're actually attempting to leave the relationship. So what we recommend is that before you make that decision on your own, and before you leave, you set up a safety plan. You make sure you have money someplace else. You make sure you have someplace to go. You make sure you have transportation. You have that all set up before you walk out that door. It is a serious issue. Okay, second of all, what makes a bad relationship? What is domestic violence? Well, domestic violence is the attempt of one person to control another person. And they can use it by means of physical violence, sexual violence, or emotional or psychological violence. Now, I don't know how many of you are in relationships, but you know, they're touchy. You have to work at it to make it happen. But if somebody is treating you badly, this is not a relationship that you want to stay in. You want to feel good about yourself. Some of the issues that we find in terms of unhealthy relationships is that in a domestic violence relationship, there are certain warning signs. That is, that the person who's trying to control you will try to isolate you, will try to disconnect you from your friends, from your family, from the people that you know. The person, and again, I'm saying it doesn't have to be a woman, it doesn't have to be a man. It's It could be either one. They want to control you. They may take away the keys to your car. They may take away your bank account. They want to make sure that they can control where you're going. If you're beginning to feel isolated, you should know that is not a good sign in a relationship. What you want in a relationship is mutual trust, mutual respect, and separate identities. And separate identities. Another thing is that often in the unhealthy relationship, there is a sense of intimidation. A person will say, if you don't do what I want you to do, I could hurt you, I could hurt your family, I could hurt your friends. They'll use gestures, they may throw things. And in the physical violence part of it, it's okay? Okay. They can slap you, they can pull your hair, they can push you, they can do any number of things. And, you know, at the beginning, it's a very subtle kind of a thing. You may think, nothing is happening, or why is this happening? This was just a mistake. But what happens is that it's a pattern, and it's a pattern that doesn't go away, and it grows, and it gets worse and worse and worse. That's why I hope that you will deal with it. The last thing that I want to say is that in 1994, President Bill Clinton signed a bill called the Violence Against Women's Act bill, and that was a really important move for everybody. And $1.65 billion was put into that for both identification of domestic violence, prosecution, and services. And it was reauthorized in 2013. So we're paying attention to it. We're particularly paying attention to it in the college. If you feel you have a problem, speak to a counselor, speak to a teacher, call a hotline. Do not sit with it by yourself alone. You can get help, and you can get out of that relationship, and you can have a good life. I want to thank you so much for listening to me. I'll be glad to come back at another time and go into more detail, but I hope what I've said has helped all of you a little bit. Thank you so much.
These talks are a part of Mental Health Awareness Week. There have been events going on all week. Karen just went over the very important event of the very important topic, I should say, of domestic violence. I hope it helped someone just a little bit. Again, if you need any help or support about that, email me, and my email is acarlblum.aspcc@gmail.com, and I can email you some resources and send you Karen's information. So I'm going to introduce Tony before he gets here. I'm proud to introduce Assemblymember Tony Thurmond today. Tony Thurmond was elected to represent California's 15th Assembly District in November 2014. You may have been at the debate held here last year. He's a graduate and former student body president of Temple University, and did his graduate work at Bryn Mawr College, Bryn Mawr, Pennsylvania, where he received dual masters in law and social policy and social worker. He lives in Richmond, California. First elected to Richmond City Council in 2005, Thurmond served as council liaison to Richmond's Youth Commission, the Workforce Investment Board, and the West Contra Costa Unified School District. His priorities in the Assembly will be a continuation of his priorities as a nonprofit leader, school board member, and as a city council member. Specifically, Thurmond plans to focus on improving the local and statewide economy, improving education from the ground up, and preventing crime. As a community advocate, Thurmond helped create job training and workforce housing programs that can serve as a model for state efforts in poverty reduction. Further, he recognizes that creating sustainable jobs for California youth is a successful way to reinvest local communities. Immediately prior to his election to the Assembly, Thurmond's project, CEO Youth, was improving school attendance and reducing dropout rates, issues that he will continue to prioritize in the Assembly. Recognizing jobs, education, and crime are interrelated challenges, Assemblymember Thurmond believes that to get it right, we need to give our youth a California as good as its promise. To get there, we need to do the real work to improve our schools, reduce dropout rates, create sustainable jobs that preserve our environment, and invest in job training opportunities to build a 21st century workforce. I can talk about all the good things that an Assembly member has done, but I also want to talk about what a good person he is. He's a person who deeply cares about people, about students, about children, about families and seniors. He's been working in the mental health field for years and has a commitment to improving people's lives. Thank you so much for speaking. I'm going to give it away to him. Hi, Emma, nice to meet you.
Thank you, Emma. Good afternoon, everyone. How you doing? All right. Good. It's not every day that you walk in and somebody's just talking about you on the mic, you know. But we like it that way. If you're going to talk about somebody, do it in their presence, right? Not behind their back. And thank you for all the kind words. Thank you all for being here. I hope that your semester is treating you well and that life is treating you well. When they told me about the topic about Mental Health Awareness Week, and all I could think of was all the bad habits I had as a student. And I was hopeful that you all had much better habits than me. I went to college in Philadelphia, and so I was so poorly prepared as a student. You know, I just prayed for snow all the time, so I didn't have to turn in that paper or go to that class. But praying for snow in September is just not going to work because there'll snow in September. So I've learned the hard way, if you can give yourself more time to prepare, it's just less stress. And I had the bad habit of, I wrote every single paper the night before it was due. I studied for the exams the night before the exam took place. All that on top of everything else that you have to stress about, right? Financial hardship and financial worry, health, social issues. Imagine that. You might actually have time to socialize with peers and colleagues. You know, I hope that you will give yourself the gift of time to prepare and that you'll do the thing that it's taken me so long to learn how to do. Ask for help. You know, there's so much stigma, you know, about mental health. And I think if we just take advantage of the resources that exist, if there are counseling centers, if there are health centers, to ask for help. And sometimes just asking for help from a peer or a colleague who can help you with the material. I never wanted anybody to know that I needed help. And so I struggled through it, and I usually didn't do very well. And I've learned that when you ask someone for help, it has almost like a transforming power over them. That you ask someone for advice or for help, if you're asking the right people, most people want to help. And I have found that people who typically have resisted when I've come at it in a different way and just said, hey, do you think you could give me a hand with that? Could I ask for your advice? Could I ask for your guidance? I can't tell you how many doors that has opened for me professionally, personally, and when I just sort of checked whatever was going on for me inside and said, could you help me with this? It changed the whole dynamic, and it put that person in a position, instead of seeing me as a competitor, as someone who they could give a hand up, to give help to, and I was appreciative of it, and I would impart that to you. Everything that has happened in my life, I owe in great deal to my family, to teachers, to great mentors, and so much to what's happened in my college experience. In spite of all that stress, I learned a lot. And I got a chance to serve in student government. I got elected as student body president, and very quickly realized that the kind of advocacy that we were doing for funding for higher education, and even to get countries that had bad voting records and human rights records to, have our university divest their money, it let me know as a student that we can actually change things locally and globally through government. And it was the first time that I actually thought I might want to have a career in politics. It would take me 20 years to figure that out, exactly how to put it together. But along the way, I was able to attend graduate school. I was able to have a 20-year career as a social worker. My undergraduate was Temple University. I studied psychology. I went to Bryn Mawr College to become a social worker, and I got a master's in social work and a master of law and social policy. I spent my career working with foster youth, folks who had substance abuse disorders, folks who were living in poverty and trying to make change. And along the way, I realized if we don't change our systems, it's hard to support our families who are impacted by those systems. I've had the great fortune to serve my city, Richmond, as a city council member and to work on programs for youth, as a school board member to bring in programs to help students, and now to serve as a state assembly member and to introduce bills that address mental health directly, like our bill AB 1392, which would ensure that schools in California have mental health counselors directly in the schools, and that we bring mental health services directly to our schools. It's been You all know the funding crunch has caused so many services to be divested from our schools. This bill would actually pilot partnerships between local county mental health agencies, local school districts working together to deliver services to students who've been impacted by trauma, by violence, by abuse, depression, or just who need somebody to talk to. And so, I'm living the dream. I've been given a great opportunity. I'm someone who they said would never really amount to anything. My mom was an immigrant who came here from Panama and raised 4 kids in San Jose with nothing. When she died, I was at the age of 6, and I got sent 3,000 miles away to be raised by a cousin who I never met. And she saved my life. She raised me like her own son, and she made sure I got an education. And I didn't get caught up in the criminal justice system. I didn't get, expelled from school. People treated me like what I was, a student. And that's why I've devoted my career to helping young people and to education and to human services. And those kind of things have made a difference in my life. And when I look out here, I'm looking out at future legislators. I can serve for up to 12 years in the Capitol. And so hopefully you all will let me have those 12 years, but one of you might be ready to take that seat. And that's our job, is to build leadership. And I hope that some of you are thinking about how you'll make change in your community, whether that's at the legislature or working for a nonprofit or being a teacher or being a physician, being a great parent, being a great friend and family member. But never let anybody tell you what you can't do. If someone tells you that you can't do it, walk away from that person, because that's not the right person for you to be talking to. Find someone who can support you and who will never ask you for anything in return and who will be a supporter to you and who loves you enough to give you critical feedback. I got friends like that. They're willing to say, Tony, you wrong, you foul, and they're like, but they're willing to tell me that because they care enough about my success so that I can make a correction. And I consider that a good friend, as opposed to somebody who's going to smile in my face and then behind my back say, he don't know what he's talking about. If I don't know what I'm talking about, pull me to the side and help me to get the conversation right. Because we can't do anything by ourselves. Together we will succeed. Together we will achieve. And, if you live in the cities of Berkeley or Richmond or Oakland or Albany or Emeryville or Piedmont or Hercules or Pinole or San Pablo, I'm honored to be your representative. But even if you don't live in those cities, if there's anything that Tony Thurmond can ever do to support you, please call on me. I'm not that hard to find. Our office in the Capitol has a very distinguished number. It's 5150 of all numbers. Not sure how that happened, but we took it as a badge of courage that we would be carrying a bill that serves folks who do get 5150 and provide mental health services. We do have an office here in the State Building, downtown Oakland, and we have staff who are here to support you. My district staff member, district staff director, Mary Nicely, is here. We have staff from Berkeley, Richmond, Oakland, the entire Bay Area, and it's an honor that you've invited me to be here today. I just want to wish you, good luck. Take everything out of these experiences, go on and do great things, and if we can be helpful, please call on us. Thank you very much.